This is what it is, okay? I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. And I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational.
You can do it!
But that just wouldn't be our style.
Welcome to Project Reclamation, where you rebuild, re-energize, and reclaim your life. Did your guys' book say woman who cooks carrots and peas in the same pot is unsanitary?
What?
No.
I don't know what just
That's
happened.
crazy.
Where? I don't even know where this is.
It's not.
I think it came out of JB's butt.
Oh,
Yeah. It was a Confucius Day joke that was
JB has
really
carrots and peas in his butt.
poorly timed.
I don't know.
Huh?
Moving on.
Hey, everybody! Welcome back. We have another installment of Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
The Art of War.
We'll probably just jump right into this instead of our normal sort of banter and bullshit.
Another
Shannon,
aspect
welcome
of
back.
Confucius
Thank you.
say.
JB's
Oh, God.
stuck on Confucius say.
Dude.
JB, do you have another? You might as well get this out. Do you have another Confucius joke for us?
From your butt.
Man who have hands in pockets feel cocky all day.
I would say you're ridiculous, but that was kind of funny. So
And ridiculous.
Welcome back,
Or
JB.
as ridiculous. What did you say early? Ridicule.
Ridiculous.
I don't know. You said something that was not ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Ridicule?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Don Rickles.
No.
So you heard her lovely voice. Welcome back, Shannon Frick.
Hello.
Shannon, do you have anything to share with the group?
I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome.
And sort of awkward.
It's not that awkward. Oh, come on. There's no awkwardness with you and your two brothers.
Nope.
None whatsoever. So at this point, we're just going to jump right back in. So welcome back to Sun Tzu. So essentially, he goes on to say that he can guess, or he can determine which, before a battle even fought, he can determine which army is going to win the war based on all of these five things and how they are prepared for each of these five things. Which one's better trained? Which one has the most ability? Which one has the advantages derived from heaven and earth? So which one has the advantages based on the weather and the lay of the land, and which one has the most discipline rigorously enforced? Which army is stronger? Which one has better training? And in which has a greater constancy both in reward and punishment? So essentially, which army has a better strategy for all of these five things that are constants or not controllable by either army?
Mm-hmm. On that basis. And then, they have to base everything in here off that. But when I read about cleverness, it says cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. So I think of, war now as compared to war, during this time, or even think of world wars that went on, or, even before that. It's interesting to think he says this a lot, that it's not useful to destroy a culture or a community, because it's not going to be worth it. What have you won? You've won nothing. You've won a damaged trophy. Yeah. So it's, and I can't remember, I think Tim, you were saying it's not just about strong arming. It's about planning and about paying attention and figuring out what's going to work in advance.
If you must fight, win, kind of thing.
Right.
That's a big emphasis on if.
Right.
Yes.
So jumping into that, and what Shannon's talking about is, I think I found it's in our second section, waging war. He says if the campaign is protracted, which means if the war is prolonged, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. Essentially, nobody gains from a long war unless we jump into some sort of conspiracy theory that JB and I like to talk about, and we say that a protracted war is really only of the benefit of the sales organization that is the Defense Department selling weapons to other countries, but that's neither here nor there. So, according as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. This goes right back to all warfare is based on deception. It's all about planning around the things you can't control, the weather and the terrain in this respect. But what are the subjective meanings of those to you in your situation, and how are you going to plan around those? And then if you do have an actual enemy or someone that you are negotiating with or in quote unquote battle with, all warfare is based on deception. So he says, when able to attack, we must seem unable to attack. When using forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we should pretend we're far and make the enemy believe we're far. When we're far, we must make him believe we are near. Hold out baits. So bait your enemy to kind of... Basically, it's all about taking your enemy off their guard. If he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is superior in strength, avoid him. So if the enemy is just way stronger than you, run away. Don't fight a battle you know you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. And do the research before to know if you're going to win or lose that battle. And that's... And I don't know a ton about martial arts, but I can liken this to kind of martial arts, because martial arts, from my understanding, especially the self-defense ones, are more about preparing to fight, but at the end of the day, using all of your skills and knowledge to avoid most fights.
And as little effort as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Physical effort.
But I think it's funny. He talks about, like, if your opponent is choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. So basically, if this person's a hothead, like, get them off their game, because if all warfare is based, and warfare again could be whatever's going on, if you can take your opponent off their game, then they're going to be off their game. So you have a better chance of winning. If he's taking ease, give him no rest. So if they feel like if your opponent needs rest, give him no rest. Go fuck with him. And if his forces are united, separate them. If he's attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. And this is one that really kind of got to me. I had a meeting the last couple of days, and we're talking about sales and going and getting more sales. And he talks about somewhere else in here, that if you attack a stronghold or a city right at the city wall where they're most defended, like you're gonna lose most likely. And that's like going head to head when you don't need to. When you could go and find a back door or find a niche or find a place to bring in a product or to get something done, you go do that. And there's no point in fighting this really kind of rough, probably going to lose head-to-head battle. So essentially find the low-hanging fruit, or find the point that you can attack your enemy, and think of attack your enemy in whatever respect this is to the situation that you have in mind.
Well, I'm sure you say low-hanging fruit, and I feel like that's more of a offensive term, like, because you're not. I mean, yes, you are looking to attack somebody, but I feel like that low hanging fruit term is so counterintuitive to the entire philosophy of this. You're not going to go and just try and like cut somebody off at the knees. I mean, kind of you are, but it's not. You're not just going around looking for the weak. You're going around strategizing. To be able to take down your opponent and preparing so that that you can win.
So to give you more insight into what I was actually thinking of when I said all that was, my company sells a bunch of different products, and there's one particular product that we have that is very much head to head with the product that's probably number one on the market in that category right now. We also have all these other products, though, two of which are covered by way more insurances than this one product. So, and another one which kind of fills a totally different patient need than this one product. So I guess my point when I said low-hanging fruit was you don't really need to take one of our 5 products and go head-to-head with this other product if they are loving that product. We can go in and say, hey, for all your patients who aren't covered under that product, what are you doing for those? Like nothing? Okay, great. Well, why don't you use these 2 products? And then this other product fills a totally different niche. What are you using for that? Oh, nothing? Okay, well, why don't you use this product? So then my guy or my girl gets 3 products in there without even touching that other business, without going head to head with this company. And then you can actually fight that battle with that specific product once you have 3 other products already in there.
Well, it kind of
See what I'm
comes down
saying?
to that Bruce Lee. It's the water.
It's always like water. And
water
you know what?
will take the path of least resistance.
And
I
Sun
think you
Tzu,
need to take
Sun Tzu
that.
definitely talks about water and being like water. And I totally thought of Bruce Lee when I read that. Because his water always runs downhill, and water does take the path of least resistance. But guess what? Water always infiltrates. And water always gets where it needs to go. And a little bit of water that you can drink, that you can touch, blah, blah, blah. It can also make the Grand Canyon. I'm just saying.
Over time.
What is it? Water may run, water may crash. If you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. If you put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. If you put water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be like water, my friend.
Perfect.
So very good, JB.
I'm skipping forward a little bit, but what is it? Section 3, attack by
Stratagem.
Stratagem?
Strategy.
Let's say strategy.
Sure.
That works. I don't feel super educated right now.
Funny because you're probably the smartest person on this podcast right now.
Doubtful. So it says in here, there's 2. I learned what hobbling was the other day. JB, I feel like you definitely know what that means.
Is that where
hobbling a horse?
Well, yeah, where they break their
If I were to
cut the
guess,
tendons.
it would mean to
No. Oh God, no.
What is hobbling?
No, it's I don't know if they like tie them together. They tie their feet close enough together so that they can walk around, but they can't like gallop anywhere. So it's a way to like kind of limit
I
the
think
movement
of
of your
hobbling,
horse.
and I think what's her
Think of
name
hobbits,
in
Without-
to be honest.
in Misery, what she did to
Oh
James
God,
Caan's.
Kathy Bates? No. No.
Oh, my mind,
No, so
my mind took a
hobbling,
dark
okay.
turn.
The reason hobbling a horse is like you're not limiting their movement completely, but you're not letting them they can't gallop anywhere, so
You're
they're not
showing them
moving
who's
long
boss,
distances.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so in this, one of the 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his army, he talks about commanding them to advance or retreat, but being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. So it goes back to the whole planning, observing, and knowing what you're working with. And it's, I think of, without going into politics, like I think of the world today and how we think because we have the internet and we have media and social media that we think we know everything about everyone else. But, it's this picture that they or someone else have painted on their behalf.
It is funny.
And, so honestly, I think the main reason that one stood out is the hobbling part. But the part that I really liked is a little bit further. It's section 17. It's talking about 5 essentials for victory. And one of them, number 3, is he will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. And that made me think of all the people throughout here, all the times throughout history where people who you would have never expected anything from, people from like all socioeconomic statuses, all different regions, wherever it may be, whatever situation it may be, when you get a group of people who are driven by the same spirit or driven by the same cause, it's amazing what they'll do. And I love that that's part of it, that is what will lead you to victory, is just being driven by the same thing.
It's a common cause. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that is something he touches on. I feel like a bunch of times. And in the same section, this is where he talks about the best thing of all is to take an enemy's country whole and intact. And he talks about pillaging their resources and how a bushel of food stolen from your enemy is worth 20 of something that was sent to you by your country. But this is also where he talks about to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. So this goes back to the whole thing about if you prepare well enough, you can win a fight without even fighting. And I think it speaks to the whole, self-defense focus of martial arts. And I think a lot of things, if you prepare in a way that your enemy ends up basically giving up before the fight even happens, that is when you've truly prepared to the ultimate, and it doesn't always work that way, but.
And that's the best victory, is not having to expend any resources.
And this is where he talks about, not besieging walled cities. And that's where you don't fight a battle you're not going to win. I mean, if you have to, if that is your battle and you have to fight that battle, I guess it is what it is. But But if there is another way to fight that battle, I mean, I'm just right now. I guess all I can think about is the Trojan horse. Like they had this walled city and they couldn't figure out how to do it, so they're like, "Hey, we give you this big old horse. Here you go. Merry Christmas." And there's a bunch of guys inside the horse that are going to crawl out in the middle of the night and kill your whole city. But yeah, the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. He captures their cities without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations in the field. Essentially, utilizing psychological warfare and planning and taking everything into consideration before you even fight the battle. And again, battle is an analogy to whatever you want it to be. That you put the planning into something before just jumping half-cocked into it. Which is, slightly hypocritical of me because we jump half-cocked into every one of these episodes, but it is what it is. So in that same respect, it's taking everything into account. I mean, he talks about if your forces are 10 to the enemy's 1, surround him. If 5 to 1, attack him. If twice as numerous, divide your army into 2. If equally matched, offer a battle. If slightly inferior to numbers, avoid the enemy. If quite unequal in every way, you can flee. So if you're going to get your ass beat, run away, take the time, replan, refocus, and figure out another way to fight that battle.
I've always liked this quote, he who fights and runs away can run away another day.
That's so true, because you're not dead. There is an awesome excerpt from the Jocko podcast on YouTube. Just type in Jocko podcast good. And he talks about, one of his guys, he's always calling me with all these things. And he says, this terrible thing is happening. This terrible thing happened. And his response is always good. And then one time he called him up. He said, "Hey, boss, like this is what I need to tell you, blah, blah. And by the way, I already know what you're going to say." He goes, "Well, what am I going to say?" "You're going to say good, because you always say good whenever anything bad's happening." He goes, "Well, here's the thing. If something bad happens and you can find a way, you could find one little thing in that thing that I can say the word good to, that's what you focus on. We didn't get the gear. I didn't get the promotion. Good. We have time to refocus and replan and be stronger. The mission got canceled. Good. We can focus on our other missions. Mm-hmm. This happened. Good. You got injured. Good. You can do physical therapy and get trained and train yourself to be stronger. This podcast sucked. Good. We can do another one. Like whatever it is, if you can say the word good, you're still around, you're still breathing, you're still alive, and you have time to refocus, re-energize, reclaim maybe,
your life.
And that is good. So if you could say the word good, that's good, because bad stuff happens all the time. My mother would say it happens for a reason, Tim, and I would say nah, 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 nah. Mm-hmm. But take a step back and figure out what you don't have to figure out what that reason is, but figure out what you can do to take another stab, take another siege at the city, but not the walled city, because that's why you failed the first time. And make things better the second time. But if you can walk away from a failure and say the word good, then again, you ran away, but you lived to run another day. And that's good.
And you rhymed.
I know.
Good job.
You basically need to take pride and emotion out of the situation.
As you always should. Not that your emotions don't matter, but let's be honest, so many problems happen because both of you are acting on your emotions, and how much your own emotions matter to you, not thinking about the other person's emotions, and that's what leads to huge problems. Take a step back. We've talked about that a bunch of times.
Now I want to talk about conflict.
Conflict? Go ahead. Bring it up.
No, it's off topic. It's off topic.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in a different one. One thing I might be jumping ahead.
Sure.
Did you guys like the indirect versus direct?
I do, but I also like the stuff he says before that.
Okay.
In the world, there are but 5 tastes.
Yeah.
But combining those 5 tastes makes an infinite amount of tastes that we can never taste all of them in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And those 5 are
colors and notes.
Yeah,
there's but 5 primary colors. But the combination of those 5 primary colors makes more colors than we'll ever see in our lives.
So what does that mean to you guys?
It means that we only have a few tools, but the way that you use those tools, the combination of those tools, the harmony of those tools has the ability to make infinite different notes.
I think
totally.
I think it's an homage to his penchant for simplicity, in the fact that if you are read something and like say, this is a very simple text, We can agree on that, right?
Yeah.
But from this very simple text, an infinite number of outcomes can be brought. If there was a complex text, the number of outcomes are narrowed. And I feel like that's when I read and heard that was what I took from that, was that, you take something simple, you take something that, basically the primary colors, the primary food, tastes, all that. You're taking very simple ingredients and making something, there's a small base that flowers out into, an infinite number of possibilities. That was what I got from that, was from simplicity comes complexity.
I would agree. And also, if you read, everything that he talks about, like the five principles that basically lay the groundwork for any war being fought, are those 5 things we talked about earlier. But in those 5 things, the combination is immeasurable. In simplicity comes complexity, essentially. What just happened?
What were we talking about? Oh, you guys talked about the...
So yeah, we're talking about the, out of 5 primary colors, there's an immeasurable amount of colors we can see, and then that brings us to the final one. He says there are but 2 tactics in war, the direct and the indirect. But out of those 2, the amount of different strategies you can come up with are immeasurable.
Stratagem?
I don't know.
You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Emphasis on the wrong syllable. We do that all the time on purpose or on accident. But sometimes I do it on purpose. When I do it on accident. When I do it on accident, you don't know if I did it on purpose or not. Or
it's
not.
Just jazz.
Or not.
Say it again that way, and it'll be people think you're cultured.
I am so cultured. Super duper cultured. I'm so cultured. I have a giant dog sitting on my feet.
Dude.
So yeah. So the direct and the indirect. So JB, direct battle versus indirect battle. I'm pretty sure I know what that means as far as battle's concerned, but what does that mean in relative to something that you deal with or experience in your life?
Ask me that question again. Sorry.
So he says in battle there are no more than 2. Can you do you have that extra quote, Shannon?
Indirect.
There are only 5 primary colors, but of those 5, the combination leads
basically
to
he was describing.
In battle there are not more than 2 methods of attack: the direct and the indirect.
JB, stop. No. Okay, so Shannon, read that quote.
In battle there are not more than 2 methods of attack: the direct and the indirect.
So JB, my question was, I understand what that means in actual literal battle, but what does that mean to you with some sort of draw that into something relative to your life, your experience?
So basically, to me, that's like kind of a win or lose. It's kind of binary, direct, indirect. Obviously, he's not winning or losing in that scenario, but
sure,
he brought it down to 2 examples. Well, fuck, I don't know.
Okay, no, that's fine. So I, you know what? I'm going to do this for you. Because that's the kind of friend I am. So JB, you and I have a firm belief, not so much in conspiracy theories, but in trying to open people's minds to question the things that they believe based on truths that may not be actual truths. So in doing that, the direct method would be like the Alex Jones method, telling people this is wrong and you should believe in aliens and they've been breeding babies and cows for years, blah 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 blah. The indirect method would be like, well, Shannon, you believe this is true, but let me ask you this question, and then let me ask you this question, and then what about this question, and kind of indirectly kind of getting you to kind of question your thought process, and not directly telling you what I want you to believe, but getting you to kind of go that way on your own. So direct would be, JB, go buy Ritz crackers. Indirect would be like, you know what, JB, these saltines just they're kind of dry. I don't really like them. Like, I wish they had more butter. Like, if they had a buttery taste, that would be better. And I may be way off base with this, but to me, that's kind of direct versus indirect. And of course, I think of everything in sales. So my direct is buy this product, and my indirect is getting the person to kind of get to that sort of in like roundabout way. But at the end of the day, indirect is sometimes you need direct. Sometimes or if I'm talking about my employees, sometimes I need to say, okay, guys, this month, this is our focus. This is what we're going to do. Other times it's okay, guys, I need you to, this is the number you're going to hit. Jeremy, how are you going to hit this number? Other person, how are you going to hit this number? And then that's more of an indirect because it's kind of giving them a vague goal that they have to kind of prove or do or get to. That's not as good an example. My last one was much better. Achieve. Yeah, if I tell Jax, I'm going to give you this treat. If you sit, then he'll sit. That's direct, very direct. I'm asking exactly what I want. Otherwise, I'm like, hey, Jax, I'm going to give you this treat if you do something, and then I live up to him, and then I don't know. He'll probably just fall asleep because that's what
probably.
Jax, maybe it'll be there when I wake up.
You're hungry, aren't you?
He's definitely asleep right now.
He's totally passed out.
Yeah, I view this way and
the fuck out.
You're coming earlier about going in the front door or the front gate. Think of a wall to a city. That's quote the easy way. It's probably the hardest way to actually go.
It's the simplest
but in
way.
Terms of simple. That's the simplest way.
It's using Google Maps versus Waze.
I don't use Waze. I don't know.
Google Maps is going to give you the shortest route from point A to. I think they actually take into account traffic now.
Of course,
but they didn't used to. So using a GPS that doesn't take into account traffic and just takes you literally mileage wise the shortest route. That would be the direct route.
Yeah.
No, actually, I like this. I like where your head's at better than even my example.
That was your example, Tim.
Take it. No.
No. You just said that example.
No, your example was going head on. Would be the direct route.
I was you just said that example.
Going around to find the weak point of the city you're trying to siege. I'm guessing that's where you're going with this, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking of it. I mean, we are all putting it in our own, looking at it through our own lens. So I'm thinking of if you have a dream of doing a job of some sort, maybe it's a creative job. You're not just gonna go for the big ones right away and try to break down the door. You're going to figure out, well, maybe what things can I do for free, or where can I get my voice in a similar industry with somebody who does something in the industry that I want.
Right.
So how do you get creative with, the same, looking at the same outcome, the same final goal, but what are some creative ways? What are some side streets you can take to get there?
Absolutely.
Using your
or
GPS.
if you're a 30-something-year-old woman who has a ridiculously good singing voice. And, your direct method might be to go try out for American Idol. And then maybe that doesn't work so well.
Not so well.
It didn't work so well. We were there at 4 a.m, though. And that didn't work. So, by the way, Shannon has a phenomenal voice. So that didn't work so well. But you know what? The indirect method is let's post stuff on YouTube. Let's do this. Let's try, hey, if you have a good singing voice, maybe you have a good talking voice. So, do some voice acting. So she's done that. So she has done a lot of more indirect things to kind of hone that career and made it pretty far. And now we're putting her on this podcast because I like the sound of your voice, Shannon, and you have a great voice. But yeah, so sometimes the indirect method is what is the good. But what he's saying is the combination of the two in your overall strategy is it leads to many, many different outcomes.
Yeah. Well, and it's actually... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say we're kind of jumping into the next part. Weak points and strong points.
No. I have a few more things on this. I think.
Goodness.
Are we still in energy? I'm way back in the other one. There's 3 things I want to read from this other one. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. And to this, what I thought about with this one was if you fight a fight, and I'm thinking a literal fight, but not even a battle, but more like a one-on-one fight. If I'm going to fight some dude and I beat this guy, but it takes everything out of me, so I have nothing left. If that is only a battle within a war, then I'm screwed for the next step because I'm done. So someone who can win without taxing all of or if you're talking about like war, if you can win a battle, but to win that battle, you have to use all of your resources and everything you have, so you have nothing left moving forward. If that's the end of the game, that's fine. But if there's more to do after that and you have to use all your resources, then maybe that's not the best strategy. Does that make sense? Okay. The second one I had is the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. So this just goes straight back to the whole planning, knowing your enemy, knowing yourself, knowing the situation, and planning for you're like, okay, I know I can beat this guy at this specific point, and then figuring out when exactly that point is, and then striking with all your force at that one point where it makes sense instead of wasting all of your effort on points that don't make sense. And the last one I have on this one is, it is in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won. So entering a battle only after you have calculated everything and you know that you're going to win. Whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. And that's the person who just goes in half-cocked, hoping they're going to win. So now we'll move on to, are we done with energy, or did you want to go something else?
No, we're done.
All right.
JB?
Yep.
I think JB might be done, period.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm getting there. It's fucking 10:30. I'm like,
All right. Well, then,
sucking out
Well,
here.
let's do one more.
let's do weak points and strong points, and then let's call it.
Well, why don't we? There are 13. Are you good for 2 more, JB? Nope. That's a no.
Probably not.
That's a no.
Are you good for one more, JB?
Yeah, I can do one more.
Okay. So, weak points and strong points. This is number 6. Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted. Who has ever been, you've had a work meeting or something, or a sale, a negotiation, anything at all, a job interview, and you wake up a little too late and you show up late, and in that period of you showing up late, you had to rush towards the shower. You had to rush, take out the dog. You had to do all these things. You get in your car. You're still sweating because you never stopped moving after you got out of the shower, and it's hot and muggy outside, and you are off your effing game. Whereas, if you had gotten up a little earlier and not drank that last tequila drink the night before, and you had time to take out the dogs, do everything, and do a little bit of yoga, do a couple push-ups in the morning, get all your synapses firing, that's the difference. So the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. And I mean, I think it's a very aggressive example of I think what I would go ahead.
Oh, I like raised my eyebrows.
Shannon just gave me the look of, oh my God, I have something to say.
Well, it lightens it up a little bit. So I think when I'm with my super close friends, I can talk for days. But when I'm with people that I don't know, I get super shy. And before my fiance and I go out into like social situations, we have to check in and be like, okay, are you comfortably being like on tonight? So that's where I'm coming from. And I think of this as like a social situation. So if you are there, if you're kind of one of the first ones, you get to kind of see the lay of the land, and you get to kind of help drive where the conversation is going.
It's like home field advantage.
In terms of like imposing your will on the enemy. It's not an enemy because there's no opposition, but it's just a battle that you're trying to win. Like, I'm trying to be comfortable. I'm trying to be social.
It's a battle.
And that's what, yeah. I mean, for some people, not for everyone.
Well,
but,
I mean, for everyone, it's a battle. I think we're trying.
But some people thrive off of that, though.
This battle, war, enemy into everyday life. So
yeah,
whatever. I mean,
but I'm saying being social for some people is not a battle at all.
But what I'm saying is it's still a battle in this sense. What we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know,
so that for me makes me more comfortable.
I have zero problem talking to anyone.
That is true. But
I'm still going to be better at whatever I'm doing if I show up first and get the lay of the land and I'm comfortable and I've already sat down and, you know, I've talked to the bartender and whatever. The person who shows up and then we're immediately in a conversation, he doesn't have a chance to settle in.
Or if like you're jumping into a conversation where like 4 people
right.
are already going.
Right.
It's intimidating.
So no matter what you're talking about, absolutely. Show up early, get there. If you have the lay of the land, then essentially you have, I mean, unless you're going to someone else's house, like then you have home field advantage just because you have acclimated to that environment. And I mean, if we're talking about a restaurant or a bar or a ball field or whatever, a park, you know, literally it took you 5 minutes to do that, but that 5 minutes made a big difference because you're already, I am Zen. And that person they walk through the door and boom, the conversation starts and they have less comfort because whatever. So this one, this one really, this goes back to his whole kind of deception. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. An army may march great distances without distress. I mean, this is all back to the water thing. You know, you go the path of least resistance. And at the same time, you kind of deceive your enemy. if he's guarding this one wall, you send a few soldiers to this other place, so he has to send some of his troops there, and you end up dividing his troops. But we can extrapolate that into something less warfare based. And if you're in a negotiation with somebody about something and there's multiple points, like if I'm asking my boss for a raise, there's a very direct conversation about money. And, if I can kind of draw some of his attention to here or some of his attention to there, like of things that may benefit the ultimate me getting a raise conversation, then that kind of, it splits his thought process from a very sort of black and white to, budgets and money down to like, well, Tim has this impact on the company and that impact on this division and this impact on our charity that's we've done, whatever it is. Feel free to jump in, guys, and throw in any of the other examples.
Well, no, you were saying that, if you're asking for a raise from your boss, you're not just going to walk in and be like, boss, I need more money. You're going to describe to him your value to the company. And there's that sort of direct or indirect way to do that. There's I can read off, the statistics of, the improvements that I've made or the sales that I made or, the increase in value to the company that I bring. You can do all of that and make it impossible for your boss to say no.
Right.
Absolutely. Or you can just be like, hey, I want a raise.
Right. And this whole march to places where you're not expected and basically force your enemy to protect other points to basically weaken the points that he can't protect. Because if all of his protection is in one place and you draw some to this part and some to that part, literally we're talking about going and firing some arrows at some gate that he has to send some soldiers to go defend. But really, you're not planning on even attacking that gate. You're just basically weakening his army. But so to your point, my thing was, if he's only thinking budget, money, employee, he's thinking of you in a very binary sense. You draw some of his attention to what you bring in as many ways as possible. So that kind of spreads out his thinking, and ultimately, like you said, makes him see the value more than just the dollar amount. Well, you know what? We absolutely need to give this guy.
Well, you're exposing his weaknesses at that point too, because you realize that he's concerned with that stuff.
Sure. And then this next one that I read, an army may march great distances without distress if it marches through country where the enemy is not. And I think that just goes right back to planning. If you're marching through enemy stronghold territory, you're going to be dodging bullets and arrows and whatever. That guess it depends on what period of time we're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you plan your route, maybe this route is 15 or 20 miles longer, but in the long run, if it's totally unguarded ground, that's way better. Kind of like, I guess the first thought that comes to my mind is if I'm driving to my parents' house, which is 225 miles away, the direct route to there goes straight through LA. So if this is Friday afternoon,
probably not.
Traffic sucks, and I'm going to go way around in a way that adds a whole hell of a lot of miles to my drive. And my drive may not be any shorter. It may be the exact same amount of hours. But if I'm moving in traffic and I'm actually driving versus sitting in traffic, mentally, to me, that's way better. So if I'm 5 hours stuck in traffic, start, stop, versus 5 hours actually driving, moving, chilling, cruising, listening to podcasts, listening to music, whatever, talking to someone on the phone. To me, mentally, that's much better. So that is my path of least resistance. But this goes right back to the whole Sun Tzu apparently quoted this hundreds of years before Bruce Lee did. But, be like water. Take the path of least resistance and the path that has, the least obstacles and barriers.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out to me, and I was going to read that one, but I'll just go in reverse. You're never going to need the same thing out of the same people with the same, the same environment. It's never going to be the exact same. And so Section 28 says, do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. So, for example, like if you were asking your old boss at your old company for a raise, you would do it totally different than you would currently. I mean, you've been there for a couple months, so you're probably not going to do that yet. But you're going to take some things that worked, but we should always be evolving and changing. One, because we're going to be entering into different situations. We're going to either want something different or we're going to want the same thing, but in a different situation. And 2, you want to get better. Like you want to work up to evolving yourself and kind of losing my thought here, but you want to get better and you want to continue changing, and you don't want to always do the same thing. And that's where people get stuck, is you expect the same results.
I think it harkens back to the beginning, that whole, all of the things that exist that you can't change. What's going on? What's the situation? Now I know these answers. Now I'm going to plan my strategy. I think a copy and paste method, which is what I see it to not changing your attack plan, is totally it doesn't fall into that sort of mindset, because if you just use the same approach every time, then you're not taking into consideration all of the factors at play.
Yeah.
And also you don't want to be predictable, because that's boring and it doesn't work. And like, I mean, I can draw on sales because that's what I do. And another, I could call out Echo Charles again, because in one of the Jocko podcasts, he's talking about salespeople. He goes, yeah, salespeople have all these tactics, and it kind of gets you at first, but he's like, I'm on to you now, guys. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Like, ask me all these questions, getting me to say yes, because you think if I say yes 5 times, I'm going to say yes to your sales pitch, like whatever. And like, to me, that's like, I was like, oh, well, cheesy salespeople. Like, I don't sell like that, but I don't really sell like a salesperson. I sell just because I just find whatever. I think everything is custom tailored to that conversation. And I mean, that's just how I work, but ultimately, but if we go more literal with this, like, the Navy SEALs are taught to never do the same thing twice. If you have, I don't know, I watch a lot of cop and weird like CIA spy shows. Like, if you feel like you're being tailed, like you try to never take the same route home twice in a row. You always mix it up.
Yeah.
Because if you're ever predictable, that predictability can be held against you in some way, shape, or form. So, for sure.
Yeah, so maybe to finish up your, Bruce Lee comment was really short, but he says, water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare, there are no constant conditions.
Absolutely. And
things are always changing.
It just speaks to adaptability. Things are always changing.
Yeah.
Keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you can always redefine success.
Absolutely. And you can always redefine your success.
Yeah.
Well, success shouldn't be set in stone to begin with.
Yeah.
No.
It should be a sliding scale, in my opinion.
My wonderful boss has a little placard up at her desk that says, if at first you don't succeed, redefine success.
Well, and honestly,
now that could be misread.
Success
but
in this day and age,
it fits well here.
When you attain it, you usually find out that you had what you wanted all along.
Oh my! It's so kind of like the Wizard of Oz.
Well, and I remember, I think it was Chris Rock, and he was sitting down with his dad when he decided that he wanted to go into stand-up comedy, and he was like, "But how do you plan to be successful?" And he's like, "Well, Dad." I want to say his dad was like a teacher, or he was going to become a teacher. One of them there was a teacher role in there somewhere. And he's like, honestly, if I can make as much money doing stand-up comedy as I can teaching, then that'll be successful. Like, if I can just pay my bills like I would if I had a regular job. And obviously he makes much more than a teacher now. But just either define it the first time or redefine it.
Honestly, like I think defining success is kind of, I don't know. It's all about the journey. Like what happens when you reach success? I mean, it's so unfulfilling in so many ways.
So like I said, I nicknamed my team the A Team. So we had this whole thing going on, and it's more like, because I think you got to keep things fun, and like they liked it. So I like it. You have to keep things fun, because if things aren't fun, like then what's the fucking point? But one of the things I came up with, and this was just off the top of my head, off of things that we were talking about, I came up with the 3 A's. And I think it goes for obviously sales, but it goes for anything. And it was assess, adapt, attack. Assess the situation, adapt your plan. Because I don't think you need to change your plan. I think you have a plan. And if your plan is decent, you can adapt it to whatever. Like, totally. We talk about flying an airplane and how technically an airplane is off course 95% of the time, and you're always adjusting. So you assess, where am I going? Where am I, you adapt or adjust, your flight plan, and then you attack. So then you hit the gas, boom, go. So, and I think that it's simple, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to come up with something like that. I'm sure there's something just like it. I'm not super special, but whatever. But jumping kind of forward just a little bit, just to knock out another part of this, another thing that just very much plays to the same shit we've been talking about is number 21, ponder and deliberate before you make a move. Again, don't jump in half-cocked.
Hey, I highlighted that one.
Oh, nice.
Look at that. We must be related.
So then... and by the way, like with my whole team, we were like, we're going to write a list of all the things we come up with this week during our meeting. And then at the end, we're going to figure out what are the most important parts so we can have our team values. And I had no idea what was going to come out of that whole exercise. What I ended up with was the same thing that JB and I have sort of the acting sort of rough draft title of our book, just bring value. That's what we decided. It works for everything.
Bring
value.
It does.
So I'm just going to knock out a few of these, and then I know JB needs to go to bed. So the ones that I have here are number 28. Now a soldier's spirit is keenest in the morning. By noonday, it has begun to flag. And in the evening, his mind is bent only on returning to camp. A clever general, therefore, avoids an army when its spirit is keen, but attacks it when it's sluggish and inclined to return. This is the art of studying moods, which is just one more thing in the when to study how to do things. So, if there is any sort of, if it is an enemy, attack them in the afternoon when they're tired. If it's a sale, in my case, if I'm calling on a doctor, if I show up in the morning when they have an entire caseload of patients that they're about to see, they're not going to be in a super great mood, nor are they going to have time to talk to me. But if I show them up in the afternoon, they're going to be done with their day. They're going to be sort of wrapping up. They're going to be in a good mood to talk to me. But, if you are... I found that a lot of people are in a bad mood on Mondays, but hey, they're in a happy mood on Fridays. So if you have to go talk to somebody, and you need them to be, if it's more beneficial for them to be in a better mood, then you talk to them on a Friday versus a Monday. Or, if you need somebody more attentive, maybe the morning is better because people are more attentive in the morning, whereas at the end of the day, they're kind of checked out. Or if you need to have a conversation with your boss and you just need them to say yes, and you don't really want them to necessarily pay attention to you, then maybe have a conversation with them on Thursday or Friday afternoon. I'm just saying, take all these things into consideration because someone's mood definitely changes throughout the day and throughout the week. And based on what you're looking for, there might be a best time to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mind if I close it out? Or you have a few more?
Close out this half.
Yes.
Yeah, just this half.
There was one that I thought was interesting. When surrounding an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard, because somebody who's desperate can be unpredictable, irrational, and dangerous. So if you know that you're gonna take this army and you have the resources to surround them, give them an outlet so they can run away rather than make them fight, because you may win and you're gonna kill them all, but they're gonna take some people down with them because a desperate person is dangerous. And there's another one here, and I don't know if I missed it or if it has come up yet, but do not, it says something about do not attack an army that is fleeing home, because
do not interfere with an army that is returning home.
Returning home, because you don't want to get in between someone, because no matter how powerful or not powerful, I feel like, and I may be assuming too much in this one, but I think it kind of has to do with there are certain circumstances where everything on paper and everything would point to, call it a football game or whatever, that one team should probably win based on everything you can think of. Mm-hmm. But there is that X factor sometimes, and that could be someone heading home, someone who's headed home.
Think about the drive to get home.
It's like when the mom that weighs 130 pounds lifts the car to save her baby's life. Like, when there are certain intrinsical factors that change everything, and you don't want those to enter the situation. So if the enemy's already fleeing home, then you've already won. So there's really no need to go be an asshole, because you won the battle.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole.
So we are not done. We still have many sections to go, but I think we're going to close that out now.
I want to do a quick reminder.
Shannon has a quick reminder.
A PSA. No, not a PSA, but I think it's important as we talk about this to think about what battle means and what winning means. And so, we battle things every day, and it's not necessarily, deceiving other people and taking them down, but think about all of the goals and the competition in terms of yourself and beating those goals, not necessarily taking others down in the process, but figuring out how to use this and use these tactics in terms of planning and paying attention to your environment and thinking about the infinite game to figure out what you need to beat. Is it, social situations that terrify you, or is it a job that you're trying to get or a raise that you're trying to ask for? And think about it that way. And because I feel like it can sound really intense and like we're trying to take other people down.
I agree, but I'm going to draw some emphasis on one part when he says when you take a city, don't destroy the city, keep it intact. Keep the soldiers, keep the people, keep everyone, and then I believe somewhere in there he even talks about putting them to work and making them happy and integrate them into your whatever you have. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of speaks to what you're saying, though, that like it's not always a battle that you're trying to destroy the enemy.
Yeah.
The battle is that you're trying to win over the enemy. And I think that kind of plays into what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a loser.
No, absolutely not. And I think we used many, when I'm talking about sales, like the enemy in this plan may be my customer, and the customer is certainly not the enemy, because at the end of the day, I want nothing more than to benefit the customer and the patient. Like that's why I love my job. But just in the whole grand scheme of things, yes, enemy in this text can mean many things. But it's not a negative.
We'll stop here, but I feel like your customers are kind of your army.
It depends on how you look at it. Yeah. Sometimes the customers are my team, my army, and my competitors are my enemy. It just depends on how you look at it. So we're going to leave you with that. So guys, thank you for listening. And
Gracias.
This is another installment of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Mm-hmm. And thank you for listening. We will see you soon.
Be good,
Shannon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So what I believe you were trying to say is thank you.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water.
It's not an easy skill to learn. I've been practicing it for many years.